The guards pushed the human forward with little care. His boots scraped against the smooth, black floor of the great hall, leaving faint marks that vanished seconds later as the living metal healed itself. Heavy energy shackles wrapped around his wrists and ankles, glowing a dull red. Every step sent pain through his body, but he did not cry out. He had learned long ago that pain meant nothing to those who enjoyed seeing it. The throne chamber of the Carven Empire was larger than any place he had ever seen. The ceiling rose so high it disappeared into shadows filled with slow-moving lights, like distant stars trapped inside stone. Tall pillars curved like the ribs of some ancient beast, carved with symbols that told stories of conquest and dominance. Alien nobles filled the tiers on both sides, their many eyes fixed on him with fear, disgust, and curiosity. A human in chains was a rare sight. A human brought here alive was even rarer. Whispers rippled through the chamber. That is a human. They eat their enemies. They feel no fear. They destroyed 3 fleets with outdated ships. The human heard them all. He kept his head up anyway. At the far end of the hall, raised above everyone, stood the throne. It was grown, not built, shaped like a dark crystal flower frozen in bloom. Upon it sat the alien queen of the Carven, ruler of 1,000 systems. Her form was tall and elegant, covered in silver-blue armor grown directly from her body. A crown of light floated above her head, shifting slowly, responding to her thoughts. Her many eyes watched the human with cold interest. The lead guard slammed the butt of his weapon into the human's back. "Kneel," the guard hissed in his sharp, clicking language. The human stumbled but did not fall. Slowly, deliberately, he lowered himself to one knee. The shackles hummed louder, punishing him for even that small movement. Still, he did not scream. The queen raised one clawed hand and the chamber fell silent. "This is the human captured near the outer colonies," one of her advisors announced. He resisted arrest, destroyed 2 patrol ships, and refused to surrender until his vessel was disabled. He claims no rank and offers no plea. The queen tilted her head slightly. "You stand before the throne of Carven," she said, her voice echoing without effort. "Why should your life be spared?" The human did not answer right away. He took a breath, steady and controlled. When he spoke, his voice was rough, worn by age and hardship, but calm. "I did not come here to ask for mercy." A wave of anger passed through the nobles. Several rose from their seats, clicking and hissing. "Arrogant creature. He thinks himself above judgment. Execute him." The queen lifted her hand again and silence returned. Her gaze sharpened. "Then why do you speak at all?" The human raised his eyes to meet hers. For a brief moment the guards tightened their grips, expecting violence. Instead, they saw only exhaustion and something else, resolve. "I speak because it is proper to give one's name before death," he said. "I am Elia's ward, I am human, and I have walked this hall before." The words echoed through the chamber. Some laughed, others scoffed. "This hall has stood for 10,000 cycles," an advisor sneered. "Your species barely left its cradle." Elias did not look at the advisor. His eyes remained on the queen. The queen had been preparing to speak, to dismiss his claim and order the execution. But as his voice settled into the chamber, something inside her froze. Her posture stiffened. Her eyes widened just slightly. The sound of his voice, the rhythm, the tone, it struck something buried deep within her memory. A memory she had sealed away long ago, when she was not yet queen, when her world burned and hope was nothing more than a fading signal in the dark. Her claws tightened against the arm of the throne. The chamber sensed the shift. The living walls dimmed. The whispering lights slowed. Elias continued, unaware of the storm forming above him. "If this is to be my end, then let it be known that I regret nothing I have done." The queen stood up. The movement was slow, deliberate, and utterly shocking. Gasps filled the hall. Advisors turned in panic. Guards stiffened, unsure if they were about to be punished for some unseen failure. The alien queen of the Carven had not stood before a prisoner in over 1,000 years. She descended from the throne, each step echoing like thunder. Her eyes never left the human. "Say that again," she said quietly. Elias frowned slightly, confused but unafraid. "My name." "No," the queen replied. "The words you spoke before it." Elias took a breath. "I said I have walked this hall before." The queen stopped just a few steps away from him. Her towering form cast a shadow over his kneeling figure. Slowly she reached out and lifted his chin with one claw, forcing him to look directly into her eyes. Those eyes were no longer cold. They were searching. "Where did you learn to speak our tongue?" she asked. "On the battlefield," Elias replied. "From your wounded. From your dying." A sharp intake of breath spread through the nobles. The queen's voice dropped to almost a whisper. "And where did you learn to stand your ground against impossible odds?" Elias met her gaze. "From experience." The queen straightened. She turned away from him and faced the court. "Clear the chamber," she commanded. Confusion erupted. "My queen," an advisor protested. "This is a human criminal." "Clear," she repeated, her voice carrying power that left no room for argument. Guards moved at once. Nobles were ushered out, still whispering, still staring back at the human in disbelief. The massive doors closed, sealing the hall until only the queen, the guards at a distance, and the shackled human remained. The queen walked slowly in a circle around Elias. "Many cycles ago," she said, "my people were hunted, our fleets were shattered, our sun was poisoned, the galaxy turned away from us." Elias listened silently. "We sent distress calls into the void," she continued. "None answered, except one." She stopped in front of him. "A human voice," she said, calm, tired, unafraid. Elias felt something tighten in his chest. That voice said, "Hold on, we're coming." The queen looked down at him, and for the first time, emotion cracked through her royal mask. "That voice sounds exactly like yours." The shackles hummed as Elias shifted slightly. "A lot of humans sound alike." The queen shook her head. "No, not this voice, not this presence." She raised her hand, and the shackles flickered but did not yet release. "Do you remember a system with a dying blue star?" she asked. Elias swallowed. "Do you remember standing between my people and extinction with nothing but a damaged ship and a promise you did not need to keep?" Silence filled the chamber. Finally, Elias spoke, his voice quieter now. "I remember a lot of things." The queen closed her eyes. In that moment, the fate of the human before her was no longer a simple judgment. It was the return of a past the galaxy had tried to erase. She opened her eyes again. "Rise," she said. Elias hesitated. "The shackles will be removed," the queen replied. "Not yet, but soon." She turned toward the sealed doors. "Because," she continued, her voice hardening once more, "you are not a prisoner." Elias slowly stood, chains glowing, pain still present. But for the first time since he had been captured, hope stirred. Outside the chamber, the Empire waited. Inside, history was beginning to move again. The great doors of the throne chamber opened again, but this time no nobles rushed inside. Only silence entered with the pale light from the corridor. The alien queen stood still for a long moment, listening to the distant echoes of her empire moving beyond the walls. Then she turned back to the human. Elias Ward stood where she had ordered him to rise. The shackles still glowed around his wrists and ankles, but their hum had softened, as if even the restraints were unsure of their purpose now. He kept his posture straight, his face calm, though his body ached and his mind raced. "You should not exist," the queen said at last. Elias gave a small, tired smile. "I hear that a lot." She studied him closely, not as a ruler judging a criminal, but as someone staring at a memory made real. Scars crossed his face and neck. Old burns marked his hands. These were not the wounds of a reckless fighter. They were the marks of someone who survived too long in places where survival was never promised. "Tell me," the queen said, her voice controlled but tight beneath the surface. "Why did you never return?" Elias looked away, toward the towering walls of the chamber. Because I was ordered not to. Her eyes narrowed. By whom? By people who were afraid, he answered simply. The queen moved closer. Afraid of what? Of what would happen if the galaxy learned humans were willing to die for strangers, Elias said. Afraid it would make us targets, or worse, leaders. Silence stretched between them. At a gesture from the queen, the distant guards stepped farther back, their presence fading into the shadows. She raised her hand again, and this time the shackles around Elia's wrists flickered and vanished with a soft hiss of energy. The weight disappeared so suddenly that he nearly stumbled. He flexed his fingers slowly, feeling blood return. He did not thank her. "You trust me more than your court," he said. "I trust my memory," the queen replied. "And my memory remembers a human ship that should not have survived. It remembers a voice that refused to retreat." She turned and began to walk toward a side chamber. "Come. You will tell me everything." Elias followed. His ankle restraints remained, but their power had lessened enough to allow him to walk without pain. The side chamber was smaller, circular, its walls glowing with a soft blue light. At its center floated a living display of stars, slowly rotating. The queen waved her hand and the stars shifted. One system flared red. "This," she said, "was my home." Elias stopped. The system showed a blue star wrapped in dark clouds, its planet scarred and burning. Broken fleets drifted like metal corpses. "I remember," he said quietly. The queen's voice trembled despite her effort to control it. "My people were surrounded. Our allies abandoned us. Our enemies waited for our final breath." She turned to face him. "Then your ship arrived." The display changed. A single human vessel appeared, small compared to the enemy armada. It burned as it fought, shields failing, weapons overheating. "You should have fled," the queen said. Elias shook his head. "There were evacuation ships still trying to escape. If we ran, they would have been destroyed." "You stayed," she said. "We stayed," Elias corrected. "My crew chose to stay." Her eyes softened. "And you spoke to me." Elias nodded. "You were commanding from a damaged station. You sounded young, angry, scared." The queen closed her eyes. "I was. You asked why we were helping," Elias continued. "I told you the truth." "And what truth was that?" she asked, opening her eyes again. "That someone once helped us," Elias said, "and we promised ourselves we would never forget." The queen turned back to the stars, her claws trembling. "After the battle, your ship vanished. The records were erased. Even my own people doubted it had happened." Elias let out a slow breath. "Earth's leadership classified the mission. They said it was safer if the galaxy believed humans only fought for themselves." "And you agreed?" the queen asked sharply. "I followed orders," Elias replied, "but I never stopped watching." She faced him again. "Then why are you here now, in chains?" A bitter smile crossed his face. "Because the galaxy didn't forget us after all. They just waited." He told her about the patrol ships, about the ambush near the outer colonies, about how he had been traveling alone, using an old ship under false signals, trying to confirm rumors of rising fleets and secret alliances. "They didn't want information," Elias said. "They wanted a symbol, a captured human." The queen's expression darkened. "They wanted fear." "Yes," Elias said, "and they got it." She turned sharply and activated a private channel. The air shimmered and the image of a senior advisor appeared, tense and alert. "My queen," the advisor said, "the court is in chaos. Other empires are demanding explanations. They say the human must be executed publicly." The queen's gaze hardened. "And what do you say?" The advisor hesitated. "I say the human is dangerous, even unarmed." The queen glanced at Elias, then back at the advisor. "He is under my protection." A sharp intake of breath came through the channel. "That will be seen as weakness." "No," the queen said coldly. "It will be seen as memory." She cut the channel. Elias studied her. "You're risking everything." She met his gaze. "So did you." Outside the chamber, alarms began to echo faintly through the palace. Distant vibrations traveled through the floor. "What is that?" Elias asked. Fear, the queen replied, and ambition. She activated another display. Multiple fleets lit up across nearby systems, moving slowly but deliberately. They think I will fall, she said. That siding with a human will fracture my rule. And will it? Elias asked. The queen straightened, every inch the ruler she was known to be. It will test it. She stepped closer to him. I need to know something, Elias warned. What? He asked. If war comes, she said, will humanity answer? Elias did not respond immediately. He looked at the stars, at the lines of approaching fleets, at the shadow of history repeating itself. Humanity doesn't rush to war, he said at last, but we don't ignore calls for help either. That is not an answer, the queen said. Elias met her eyes. Then here is one. If they harm you, Earth will remember. The queen nodded slowly. The chamber doors shook as another alert sounded, louder this time. A guard rushed in, dropping to one knee. My queen, the guard said urgently. An unauthorized transmission has been broadcast across the empire, footage of the human in chains. Elias clenched his jaw. They're pushing you. Yes, the queen said. They want me to choose. She turned to Elias and raised her hand once more. This time the ankle shackles dissolved completely. You will not kneel again, she said. What do you want me to do? Elias asked. The queen faced the doors, her voice calm but filled with power. Stand beside me. As the doors opened and the court rushed back in, whispers turning into shouts, the alien queen took her throne again, not alone. Elias stood at her side, unchained, unbroken. Across the galaxy, old fears began to wake, and humanity was no longer forgotten. The court erupted the moment Elias stepped forward beside the alien queen. Voices clashed, overlapping in fear and anger. Some nobles shouted accusations, others demanded his immediate execution. Guards tightened their grips on weapons, unsure who they were meant to protect. The queen did not raise her voice. She raised her presence. The living throne pulsed with light, and the chamber fell silent again, as if the air itself obeyed her will. She stood, taller than all of them, and placed one clawed hand on the arm of the throne while the other rested calmly at her side. You will address me with order, she said, or you will leave this chamber. No one moved. Elias felt hundreds of eyes on him. Hatred, fear, curiosity. He stood straight, hands relaxed, not reaching for anything. He knew how this looked. A human standing beside a ruler many believed eternal. An advisor stepped forward, his voice sharp. My queen, this creature has already caused unrest across the empire. Other powers are mobilizing fleets. They demand proof of your claim or his death. The queen looked down at him. And you advise? I advise strength, the advisor said. Public execution. A reminder that even humans kneel before the carven. The queen's eyes flicked briefly to Elias. He did not react. He had expected this. Strength, the queen repeated slowly, is not always found in death. Murmurs spread again. Before she could continue, the chamber lights dimmed as a priority alert forced itself into the air. A massive holographic display activated above the court, showing deep space. Red symbols bloomed across it like wounds. Multiple enemy fleets. They were close. A collective gasp rippled through the nobles. They would not dare, someone whispered. They are daring, the queen replied, because they believe I hesitate. The advisor turned sharply toward Elias. This is because of him. Elias finally spoke. His voice was calm, steady, carrying easily through the chamber. No, he said, this is because of fear. Several nobles recoiled at the sound of his voice again, as if reminded of something they did not want to face. They have always feared humanity, Elias continued, not because we are strongest, but because we don't disappear when we should. The advisor snarled. You are in no position to speak. The queen lifted a hand. He speaks with my leave. That single sentence shattered any remaining doubt. Gasps turned into stunned silence. Elias took a slow breath. They are testing you, he said, looking at the queen. If you fall, they divide your empire. If you surrender me, they learn you can be forced. The queen nodded. And if I stand? They will attack, Elias said honestly. A noble cried out, then doom us all for one human. The queen turned her gaze on that noble. For one truth, she corrected. Another alert sounded. A guard rushed forward. My queen, hostile forces have crossed into our outer defense zone. Panic spread. The queen stepped forward, her voice cutting through it like a blade. You will all witness what you have forgotten. She looked at Elias. You said Earth would remember. Elias met her eyes. They already have. At his words, a small device embedded beneath his collarbone activated, projecting a narrow beam of light upward. The court recoiled as unfamiliar symbols scrolled through the air. Human code. Long-range signal, an advisor shouted. He's calling reinforcements. Elias shook his head. No, he said, just answering a question. The signal vanished. For a moment, nothing happened. Then space itself seemed to ripple. On the massive display, new lights appeared, not emerging from known jump points but unfolding from shadows as if reality had been folded around them. Human ships, dozens at first, then hundreds. Their designs were simple, functional, scarred. No golden hulls, no living metal, just steel, composite armor, and quiet power. The court froze. Impossible, someone whispered. They were nowhere near our borders. They were always closer than you thought, Elias said. The queen stared at the display, all flickering across her features. They hid inside the dark. We learned too, Elias replied, because no one looks for hope in empty space. Enemy fleets hesitated. Their formations wavered as human ships moved with precise coordination, not rushing, not posturing. The queen turned to her advisors. Open a channel. The image shifted to show the leader of the attacking coalition. A towering alien figure sneered when he saw Elias standing free beside the queen. So, the enemy leader said, the rumor is true. You choose a human over your own kind. I choose memory, the queen replied. The alien leader laughed. Then watch your empire burn. Before the queen could respond, Elias stepped forward into the projection field. This is Captain Elias Ward of Earth, he said. You crossed a line. The alien leader's eyes narrowed. You are in no position to threaten us. Elias nodded. You're right, this isn't a threat. Behind the enemy fleet, space erupted. Human ships decloaked in perfect silence, surrounding them from every angle, not aggressive, not chaotic, inevitable. This, Elias said, is a reminder. The human fleet did not fire first. They waited. The enemy leader's confidence cracked. You would risk war, Elias looked tired. You already did. The queen raised her hand. Stand down, she commanded the enemy leader. Withdraw and this ends without bloodshed. The enemy leader hesitated, then snarled. This changes nothing. Elias leaned closer to the projection. It changes everything, because now the galaxy remembers who stood alone and who answered. One by one, enemy ships powered down their weapons. Slowly, unwillingly, they began to retreat. The display faded. Silence returned to the throne chamber. The nobles stared at the human fleet still hovering protectively around the queen's world. The queen turned to her court. This is the truth you buried. Humanity does not conquer. Humanity responds. She looked at Elias. You walked in Shackled. She raised her voice so all could hear. You will walk out as a recognized protector of this empire. One by one, the nobles lowered themselves, not in fear, but in acknowledgement. Elias felt a weight lift from his chest that he had carried for decades. Later, as the chamber emptied and the stars calmed, the queen stood beside him at the viewing platform. The galaxy will not forget this day, she said. Elias looked at the human ships holding silent watch. Good, he replied. Neither will we. For the first time in a long while, humanity was not standing alone, and the universe was forced to accept it.